Good morning, Mississauga, and welcome this morning. Welcome to our mayor's address. First of all, I want to thank our mayor, Bonnie Crombie, for advocating for businesses to reopen in the red zone. This is something we've been talking about for quite some time, and so we're so very pleased that that the mayor is advocating for at least Mississauga, if not Peel Region, at least Mississauga, to reopen in the red zone. So welcome to everyone for joining us. And right now it is my great pleasure to turn the program over to the 2021 chair of the Mississauga Board of Trade, the one, the only, from Spiderworks, Ken Tenser. Ken?
Thank you, David, and good morning to everybody. My name is Ken Tenser, CEO of Spiderworks and Chair of the Board of Directors for MBOT. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Mississauga Board of Trade Annual State of the City Address. You know, it was only a year ago that I stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people in a beautiful ballroom welcoming Mayor Bonnie Crombie. At that moment, we had all heard rumblings of a spreading virus, but I don't think that anybody really knew what was in front of us. But what was in front of us? The way I'll remember it is this: a show of strength and courage from our elected officials, from the leaders within the Board of Trade and our members who have so admirably stuck together to support one another the best we can. And it's against this backdrop that I'd like to say a thank you to our sponsors for today's event. Without your continued support, we would not be able to host events like we are doing today. Thank you to our title sponsor, MMP, gold sponsor, Bell Canada, and to the Greater Toronto Airports Authority, Toronto Pearson, Lakeview Community Partners, KMB Law, CN Rail, AstraZeneca, Nurse Next Door, and Imperial Oil as our silver sponsors. Today, I'd like to welcome a few key people too. Representing our title and gold sponsors, please welcome from MNP, Jim Molyneux, Regional Managing Partner, Peel Region. And from Bell Canada, Gary Simplonius, Senior Vice President, Business Marketing and Sales. I'd also like to welcome David Wojcik, President and CEO of the Mississauga Board of Trade, and our guest of honor and keynote speaker, Her Worship, Mayor Bonnie Crombie. I'd also like to acknowledge the following attendees on today's call: our past chairs of the Mississauga Board of Trade, including Ron Starr, Jim Molyneux, Karen Ross, Ellen McGregor, John Kaiser, Peter Nagallo, George Karras, and Grant Clark. Our Board of Directors: Lucy Shaw of Nurse Next Door, Steve Rohn, Weston Forest, Jim Molyneux, MNP, Susan Balpataki, Spiegel Nichols Fox, Ellen McGregor, Fielding Environmental, Amy DeLio, Kaiser Mason Ball, Franz Dubé, AstraZeneca, Steve D'Agostino, Avega, Marianne Wensler-Weeb, Business Development Bank of Canada, Parveen Dupar, BTI Brand Innovations, Samir Sharma, Crown Group of Hotels, Linda Kern, the Kern Group, Eileen Wechter, Greater Toronto Airports Authority, Wade Hall, Sheridan College, and Andrew Selmakovich, University of Toronto, Mississauga. We also have a number of our elected officials joining us today. MPs, including the Honorable Omar Agalbra, Minister of Transport and MP for Mississauga Centre. MPPs, Nina Tangri, Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and MPP for Mississauga Streetsville. Deepak Anand, MPP, Mississauga Malton. Sharif Sabawi, MPP, Mississauga Erin Mills Office. And councillors, Councillor Stephen Dasko, Ward 1, Councillor Karen Ross, Ward 2, Councillor Chris Fonseca, Ward 3, Councillor Carolyn Parrish, Ward 5, Councillor Ron Starr, Ward 6, Councillor Matt Mahoney, Ward 8, and Councillor Pat Sato, Ward 9. Also, Nando Ianika, Chair, Region Appeal, the former Mayor, Hazel McCallion, and Her Worship, Mayor Bonnie Crombie. And apologies if we've missed anybody in the welcomes today. Today's event provides an opportunity for Board of Trade members and the community to hear firsthand from Mayor Bonnie Crombie. Her worship will provide an in-depth look at what Mississauga Council has been working on to build a complete city, a place where we live, work, and enjoy an unrivaled quality of life. I would also like to quickly review the virtual event protocols for this call. All attendees will remain on mute as we are recording this event, and a Q&A session will occur after the mayor's address to the audience. If you have a question, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to answer that question. Questions will only be visible to MBOT staff and panelists. MBOT staff will review all questions that are asked, and David Wojcik will do his best to have as many of your questions answered by the mayor. And now, to formally introduce the mayor, please join me in welcoming Jim Molyneux, Regional Managing Partner, Peel Region with MMP, to say a few words.
In a changing world, we're here for you. Delivering clear, straightforward business advice to help you navigate the path ahead. MMP, wherever business takes you.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you to everybody who's joined us this morning. I'm happy to be here on behalf of my partners and everybody at MMP. We are proud of our involvement with organizations like the Mississauga Board of Trade. I'm honored to be a past chair of MBOT and to be involved as a sector leader in the financial and professional services with Merge, assisting Mississauga businesses to navigate the challenges of COVID-19. Our partnership aligns with our entrepreneurial spirit and exemplifies our values and leadership and excellence and commitment to enhancing our communities we live and work. We are pleased to sponsor this year's event. Times certainly have changed. For those who joined us at last year's luncheon, it is likely the last event that many of us attended before the pandemic hit. As the fastest growing national full service accounting, tax, business consulting firm that is truly made in Canada, MMP is committed to supporting business owners in our local communities. In fact, you may have read, we recently extended our footprint across Canada with the acquisition of a subset of Deloitte's Canadian business. This includes approximately 25 offices, 70 partners, 900 team members, meaning MMP is now in more communities coast to coast than any other professional services in the country. Over the past year, we have worked hard to help leaders adapt to a dynamic business environment and navigate the path ahead. The Business Insights section of our website provides timely advice and practical solutions to help businesses manage the evolving landscape. MMP chose Mississauga for our regional office because of the opportunity for growth and to continue to serve as trusted advisors to our clients located in the city. With over 300 team members who live and work in the same communities, MMP is committed to the growth and success of businesses here in Mississauga. I hope you enjoy another great event. We are very pleased to have with us today Her Worship Mayor Bonnie Crombie. Since first being elected mayor in 2014, Bonnie Crombie has worked diligently to improve the quality of life for Mississauga residents by holding the line on taxes, investing in improved traffic congestion, building regionally connected transit, and attracting major economic development, all the while managing Canada's 6th largest city. Prior to being elected as mayor, Bonnie served as a Ward 5 city councillor, and previous to that, as a mayor of the parliament for Mississauga Streetsville, as a member of parliament. Before entering public service, Mayor Crombie enjoyed a 20-year career in business, building regionally integrated transit, keeping Mississauga open for business, fostering innovation, and creating a more open, engaging, and inclusive city have been the mayor's leading priorities since taking office. She has an MBA from York University's School of Business and has earned a corporate director's certificate from the Institute of Corporate Directors at Rotman School of Management. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Bonnie Crombie.
Well, thank you, Jim, for that very kind introduction. And good morning, everyone. Bonjour, Ane, Bojo, and Wachea. I want to thank Dave Wojciak, Brad Butt, and of course, Ken Tenser, and the entire team from the Mississauga Board of Trade for providing me with the opportunity to speak with Mississauga's business community. I also want to acknowledge my council colleagues who are joining us online today. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more dedicated or hard-working team of councillors anywhere in the world. Let me start off with Councillor Stephen Dasco in Ward 1, Councillor Karen Rass in Ward 2, Chris Fonseca, Ward 3, John Kovac, Ward 4, Carolyn Parrish, Ward 5, Ron Starr, Ward 6, Deepika Demirla, Ward 7, Matt Mahoney, Ward 8, Pat Sato, Ward 9, Sue McFadden, Ward 10, and George Carlson in Ward 11. I understand we also have our former mayor, Hazel McCallion, joining us today, who of course has just celebrated her 100th birthday. Happy belated birthday once again, Hazel. We also have members from both the federal and the provincial government with us today. The Honorable Omar Al-Gabra, who is the Federal Minister of Transport and MP for Mississauga Centre, Nina Tangri, the MPP for Mississauga Streetsville, and Parliamentary Assistant to the Ontario Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Deepak Anand, MPP for Mississauga Malton, and Sharif Sabawe, MPP for Mississauga Erin Mills. Thank you all for being such a strong voice for us, for Mississauga on Parliament Hill and at Queen's Park. I also want to acknowledge today's sponsors, MNP, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Joe. Bell Canada, the Greater Toronto Airport Authority, Toronto Pearson, Lakeview Community Partners, KMB Law, CN Rail, AstraZeneca, Nurse Next Door, and Imperial Oil. And of course, nothing we achieve would be possible without the support of our dedicated and passionate team of city staff who are committed to excellence and serving our residents and local businesses. I'd like to acknowledge our city manager, Paul Mitchum, and his team of commissioners who have stepped up big time over the last year, as well as the staff in our corporation who have continued to deliver services to our residents under unprecedented and challenging circumstances. As well, our Acting Director of Economic Development, Harold Dremen, and his entire team for working so hard to support Mississauga's business community through an incredibly difficult time. I'd also like to give a very special shout out to a local photographer. You've seen his work everywhere, Sanjan Avdisevich, whose incredible photos of our city appear throughout today's presentation. Well, it's almost exactly 1 year ago today that I stood on the stage of the Mississauga Convention Center to deliver my 2020 State of the City address. 650 people joined us that day. Just think about it for a second. 650 people gathered in one room at one time. It's hard to believe what's happened over the course of the following year. In that speech, I talked about how our city had an incredible opportunity before us, that we had all the right ingredients and a solid plan in place to build a sustainable, world-class city of the future. Less than 3 weeks later, I declared a state of emergency in Mississauga. Little did we know that next year, the world would be largely defined by this global pandemic, a nationwide lockdown, schools closed, businesses shuttered, people isolated from friends and loved ones, and the loss of hundreds of Mississaugans to the virus. The last 12 months have been harder than anything we've ever faced. The pressure placed on our hospitals and frontline healthcare workers, our long-term care homes ravished by the virus, and of course, our small business community, in particular, our small businesses forced to sacrifice so much for the collective good. Business owners have never faced this much uncertainty in generations. I'm truly sorry for the pain that this crisis has caused you. While we're beginning to move in the right direction, there's still a lot of uncertainty. Will new variants push us into a third wave? Will the vaccines be the silver bullet we were all hoping for? And what will the long-term effects of the pandemic look like? But what gives me so much confidence, and what I truly hope gives you confidence, is that Mississauga is strong. Our city is extremely well positioned to not just recover, but to thrive once again. We're just coming into our own right now. And the next decade is still ours for the taking. We still have a huge opportunity before us. We're well past our days of being that sleepy bedroom community next to that great big giant Toronto next to us. We've become the major global player. And the single biggest reason why is you, our incredibly rich and diverse business community. A community home to more than 96,000 businesses that saw so many of you rise to the challenge during COVID-19, pivoting production to help in the wider pandemic response. A business community so generous that even during the biggest global crisis since the Second World War, you donated millions of dollars to support the most vulnerable. A business community that, despite all the challenges of 2020, remains on the cutting edge of innovation and continues to attract talent from all over the world. A business community that is building strong relationships with public sector institutions like our universities and our colleges. Collaboration that will spur new global solutions and prepare our young people for the work of tomorrow. And I want to be very clear just how committed I am, my council colleagues are, and the City of Mississauga staff are to continuing to deliver the key tools to help residents and businesses tackle the challenges in front of us all. We are a partner committed to managing taxpayer dollars responsibly to ensure we maintain world-class services, committed to supporting small businesses transform so they can navigate this pandemic, committed to making and securing the needed investments in transformative projects like the Hurontario LRT, the Lakeshore and Dundas Street BRTs, projects that will drive the development of sustainable, dynamic, and complete communities, which will be the envy of the entire country and that will attract the best global talent to Mississauga. We are committed to tackling the affordability crisis so that everyone who wants to can find a place to live in our city. Committed to building a city where everyone, no matter their culture, creed, or color, feels welcome and has the opportunity to thrive. We have the right set of ingredients in place to seize the next decade as we build back to better. And we need to continue to push forward together as partners. In the early days of the pandemic, there were so many unknowns. The one thing we did know was that we had to act fast. We held 6 town hall meetings with thousands of residents and businesses taking part. We heard from over 650 businesses and organizations to help guide our pandemic response. We did this because we knew we couldn't do this alone. What was clear right away was that the financial impact was going to be unprecedented in scale and scope. We moved quickly to keep people's money in their pockets and we did so by deferring property tax and stormwater payments, animal and mobile licensing fees, as well as the municipal accommodation tax. And to reduce pressure on our essential frontline workers, we made transit completely free. We helped give essential workers a way to get to their essential jobs. We're again deferring tax and stormwater payments this year, along with licensing fees, to try to alleviate any additional financial pressures facing residents. But it wasn't just residents and businesses who felt the pinch. Even after we began collecting transit fares again, we were still faced with the problem of a drastic decline in ridership and lost revenue from our recreational and cultural facilities being closed. We had to lay off as many as 2,000 City of Mississauga staff, implement a hiring freeze, and cut all discretionary spending. By June, we were projecting a massive budget deficit shortfall of $100 million. $100 million. Through our actions and the mitigating measures we took, we were able to shrink this number to $55 million, still unprecedented and still daunting. This was a huge hurdle to overcome. And this is where we stepped up our advocacy efforts. When I met with our provincial and our federal partners, I made it crystal clear on the dire situation facing the city, and worked closely with the mayors right across the GTHA and the province, and frankly, across Canada, so that we could be heard with one unified voice. It didn't matter to any of us if we sounded like a broken record. This is what needed to be done. And in the fall of 2020, Mississauga secured $46 million in safe restart funding from the federal and the provincial governments, and an additional $21 million in December. This funding can be applied to a mix of transit and other expenses we have at the city as our deficits continue to mount and our facilities still stay closed and transit ridership being down more than 60%. Yesterday, however, we did receive some more good news with the province announcing an additional $30 million in funding that can go towards public transit in Mississauga. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my federal and provincial colleagues who are here with us today and for stepping up to the plate. Without your support, we wouldn't have been able to balance our budget this year. And you know that cities must have balanced budgets. And we would be forced to cut more services and investments in our capital projects that create jobs and maintain our high quality of life and as an attractive destination for businesses. But the financial impacts of COVID on the city still remain significant. This is not a one-year pandemic. The echo effects will last for years. Last month, I met with the Prime Minister and other federal ministers as part of the Big City Mayors Caucus Summit, and I made it very clear that we are again projecting a significant financial shortfall in 2021, and that a Safe Restart 2.0 is critical to maintaining financial stability at the city. I'm very confident that we will get this support. This year, Council delivered a workman-like budget, a 1% increase on the city's proportion of the property tax bill for residents, and a 0.6% increase for commercial projects. Our priorities will be returning to a normal fee schedule and collection as soon as possible, no new material increases to service levels in 2021, and reducing discretionary spending once again. And while we're doing a critical assessment of our capital expenditures, we have once again put money aside into our capital reserves so that we can continue to advance the major projects that are essential to the future of our city. I want to shift gears for a second and talk about what I saw from the business community in the early days of COVID. At a time when you were dealing with so many questions about how you were going to support your own employees, how you were going to support your own families, how you were going to meet payroll, you stepped up in such a big way. Through Feed Mississauga, a community-led initiative by Slavica Bisilas and Dan Meadowcroft, dozens of businesses throughout the city worked together to provide 1,400 meals every weekend for residents struggling to put food on the table. Our BIAs also stepped up. The Port Credit BIA launched the Businesses Are People campaign to show that behind every storefront is a family and that we all need to support the small business community. The Malton, Streetsville, Clarkson, and Cooksville BIAs all supported their businesses and communities through webinars, shop local campaigns, and for food drives, and brightened up our streets through art installations and Christmas decorations. There were also so many Mississauga businesses that pivoted quickly to meet the needs of the community, particularly when it came to PPE. Custom Furniture Shop, Request for Product, rebranded itself as the Canada Mask Supply and began producing 20,000 protective face masks per day and actually created 35 new jobs. MHICA began making bands that help secure the face masks of frontline healthcare workers. Premier Candle Corporation began making face shields too, and donated thousands of them to long-term care homes in Mississauga. Take Care Supply has also produced 750,000 masks since September, creating 200 jobs and donating thousands to charity. Computer design firm Toronto Microelectronics harnessed their engineering capabilities as well to manufacture top-of-the-line face masks, donating thousands of them to frontline healthcare workers, as did Alcon Canada and Chen's Enterprises Corporation, who donated thousands of surgical masks and gloves to Trillium Health Partners. The list goes on and on and on. There were so many residents, businesses, and organizations across Mississauga who did extraordinary things during the pandemic. And that's why I'm so happy that the city is launching a new campaign called COVID Heroes to honor those who went above and beyond to support the community during COVID-19. We'll be celebrating our heroes during National Volunteer Week in April with a virtual tribute ceremony, as well as the unveiling of a monument at Celebration Square. And I encourage all of you to nominate a COVID hero in your community by visiting mississauga.ca/COVID heroes. It really is amazing just how resilient, innovative, and forward-thinking so many of our businesses are. And I know many of you are essential businesses, and I want to thank you for keeping so many of our residents employed. You've kept our economy running and provided all of us with the food, supplies, and services we've needed to survive this pandemic. You have been true partners in the fight against COVID-19, but I also understand the stress that you came with operating during a pandemic, trying to keep yourself and your employees safe. I was happy to see so many of you on the MBOT call in February about COVID protocols to keep workplaces safe. I want to thank you for your commitment to safety and to employee health. It must be our first priority. MBOT also partnered with the city on a number of other occasions to provide an important space where businesses could have a frank conversation about how we could best support them. MBOT has been such a strong voice in advocating for the necessary financial supports that our businesses and communities need. Because of MBOT, we are truly a better city. During 2020, we also saw so many businesses step up to support the Mississauga Food Bank in a year that saw demand grow by 143%. Imagine. Some during my Thanksgiving food drive and others during the Mississauga Challenge in April, launched by Mohammed Faqih, CEO of Paramount Fine Foods. Not that he wasn't busy enough by preparing thousands of meals a week out in the Paramount Fine Foods kitchens and delivering them to frontline workers and vulnerable residents such as those in shelters. He was a busy guy and still is. More than 3,000 individuals, 100 businesses, and 30 community, religious, and not-profit groups accepted the Mississauga Challenge and helped us raise more than $1.2 million for the Mississauga Food Bank. Then in October, with your help, my mayor's Thanksgiving food drive raised more than $500,000 and 230,000 pounds of food for the Mississauga Food Bank. That was truly unbelievable. You showed us your support, and I hope you felt supported by us. One of the biggest frustrations for me was that the city can't do more to provide financial supports to businesses. We are limited in what we can do. Our friends in the federal and the provincial governments have the real fiscal firepower to provide meaningful relief and investment. And while I know businesses would like the city to provide grants, loans and subsidies we simply aren't allowed to by the Municipal Act or aren't in the position to, since we need to balance our budgets. Our support must come in a different form, through providing information, coordinating sector advocacy, and facilitating programs like Digital Main Street from the federal and the provincial governments. In fact, one of the first actions we took was to launch our COVID-19 relief portal. We provided free advisory services in legal, accounting, business operations, and sales and marketing. And I'm so proud of how our economic development team was able to help businesses with digital transformation. Our Digital Main Street program helped over 200 small business owners embrace technology to keep their businesses alive, to keep them going. Small business owners like Gloria, owner of Joanne Lip European Skincare and Electrolysis, which was started by her mother 50 years ago. Our EDO team helped her make the move to online sales and implement social media marketing and advertising. We helped people like Mona and her husband Sammy, owners of Supermoon Japanese-style cheesecakes, improve their social media presence and get photos up online to attract new sales. And people like Gita, owner of Unique Gems and Beauty Boutique, who with the help of our EDO team is now adding e-commerce capabilities to her website after the pandemic forced her to pivot away from her services, which she had traditionally provided, such as manicures, pedicures, and facials. We enlisted 606 businesses for our Shop Here program, a partnership with Google that helped businesses and artists develop and launch an online store for free. Tourism Mississauga also launched our Mississauga Made campaign in the first few months of the pandemic that included a digital platform showcasing some of our best local businesses. It also included what I would call a relentless online social media blitz to encourage residents to buy local, where they're ordering in on Takeout Wednesdays or purchasing gifts from that little shop around the corner, like The Cabin or Zest for Living. We pushed out the message as hard as we could that buying local does make a difference. We pushed out that message, and our Mississauga Made website has now had over 300 listings on it as a result. But the most important thing we did was cement our economic recovery plans at council, plans that were in large part shaped by the conversations we had with you, our business community. These plans define our specific needs in Mississauga while ensuring that we play to our strengths and allow us to push forward together as partners with the really big things that will allow us to thrive and to build back to better. The truth is that we can't slow down, not for a second. We simply can't afford to. That's because by 2050, Mississauga's population is expected to grow to more than 1 million people with more than 600,000 jobs. It's getting more difficult to move people quickly and efficiently. We need to match our population growth to the growth in our transportation networks. I'm proud to say that we are working hard to do this, and we've secured unprecedented investments into Mississauga. In fact, $7.4 billion since 2014, since becoming mayor. Through partnerships with the federal and provincial governments, we've leveraged these investments to build transit and transportation networks. And as much as we need these projects for our own residents, we also need them to bring people to our city. Mississauga remains a net importer of jobs, with more people coming in to work to Mississauga each day than leave to go elsewhere. These are your employees, the talent you need to grow your businesses. I'm thrilled to report that the construction on the $4.6 billion 19-stop Hurontario LRT is on schedule, and the line is slated to open in the fall of 2024. Get ready to see more crews working on Hurontario over the next year. I can't underscore enough how transformative this project is and how critical it is to the future economic prosperity of the city. The LRT will form the north, south spine of a regionally integrated transit network connecting millions of people a year to Mississauga and beyond. It will move up to 31 million passengers a year, and over the next 20 years will support a quarter of all of the employment in Mississauga. That's 220,000 people along that corridor, 128,000 jobs, and 12,000 new residential units. Simply put, the LRT is critical to the future of our city. And it is because of the advocacy efforts of council and city staff that the LRT is moving full steam ahead. We also announced full funding for the Lakeshore Bus Rapid Transit, a long-awaited project that will be critical to moving people along the Lakeshore corridor. That announcement also included funding for 11 other smaller projects across our transit system, including rehabilitating our current fleet of buses and improving transit terminals. I'm also thrilled that My Way will be serviced through the new Kipling Transit Hub that will link 16 of our bus routes to Kipling Station, making it so much easier for residents to link to the TTC and for people coming from Toronto to link to My Way. I want to again thank my federal and provincial colleagues for being true partners in understanding the need to modernize transit in Mississauga. These game-changing projects wouldn't be possible without your support. And in the coming days, and I mean literally, because we have a meeting with some of you this Friday, I'll be speaking about the city's priorities as you work on the federal and the provincial budgets. Spoiler alert, among the asks will be enhanced all-day two-way GO service on the Milton line. With 6 stops in our city and over 3 million riders per year, the Milton corridor is the second busiest in the GO network. But the trains run the wrong way, running west-east in the morning and east to west in the evening. The wrong direction, folks. For example, if you stand inside the headquarters of Novo Nordisk in Meadowvale, you can see the GO station, but it's of no use to your employees because they can't get there from Toronto in the mornings. There are hundreds of other businesses in Meadowvale that are in the same situation. There are over 77,000 jobs on the Milton line in just Mississauga alone. They have been told for years by successive provincial governments that increased service on the Milton line is coming. And I'm committing to making sure that it does come. On February 19th, I joined with Councillor Sado to meet with Metrolink CEO Phil Verster as we made it very clear to him just how important this corridor is to Mississauga. The economic potential of the Milton corridor is immense, and all-day two-way GO will unlock it. I understand that we are close to finalizing their business case and that we will likely see movement in the very near future on this file for the first time in decades. Investments like these are so critical for us to reach our sustainability goals. Our climate change action plan will see our city invest $450 million over the next 10 years to reduce our emissions by 40% in the next decade and 80% by 2050. And we know that the only way that we can get there is by successfully shredding the car culture and truly embracing transit. 70% of trips in and out of or around Mississauga are done in cars or other vehicles. At the city, we are committed to changing that. During 2020, My Way added 11 new second-generation hybrid electric buses to its fleet that are convertible to full battery power. These are the first buses of their kind in Ontario. As part of our economic recovery plans, Mississauga is embracing a green recovery. I know our business community wants us to push forward on projects like these. That's because even in a year defined by a global pandemic, we attracted investments from some of our biggest anchor tenants while welcoming new and exciting players to the fold, a key ingredient in our economic recovery. Our economic development team deserves a great deal of credit in helping create about 3,000 new jobs in Mississauga this year alone. We saw companies like Roche Pharmaceuticals invest more than $500 million at their Canadian headquarters here in Mississauga, which will create 500 new jobs over the next 5 years. Part of our ever-growing life sciences sector, that is the second largest in the province and home to more than 470 businesses employing more than 25,000 people. Canada and the entire world is now looking to many of you to lead in testing, in treatment, and in post-pandemic economic recovery. We saw the arrival of online grocery giant Good Food Market, which signed a lease on a 200,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility that will become the company's flagship fulfillment center and create over 2,000 jobs at full capacity. White Studio also opened their second studio location in Mississauga, featuring 181,000 square feet of space. And when you add the recent investment by Sim International in Mississauga, we now have 8, that's right, 8 film studios in our city, truly solidifying us as Studio City North. These investments are a testament to how Mississauga is leading in so many different sectors. And we need to continue driving even more investment over the year. But we also need to support other anchor sectors that have been particularly hard hit by COVID, including the airline industry. Thousands of Mississauga residents are employed at Pearson by the GTAA. And if we're going to keep these jobs, we need our federal counterparts to bring forward an economic aid package that will allow our airline industry to recover and to once again thrive. This is not only essential to employment at Pearson, but to our aerospace industry, which is the biggest in Ontario and home to more than 340 companies employing 31,000 people. The new investments we saw in 2020 are also a testament to our highly skilled workforce, with 2/3 of our residents holding some sort of post-secondary education. Our inclusiveness, our openness to newcomers, and our singular ability to produce, attract, and retain first-rate local and international talent is something we are very proud of. Mississauga's diversity is truly its strength. And to continue attracting the best and brightest, we need to keep building partnerships between business and public sector institutions. Just last month, we welcomed a $40 million investment from Novo Nordisk and the University of Toronto to establish the Novo Nordisk Network for Healthy Populations based out of the UTM campus. This landmark investment will help support the work in public health research and advancement and comes at such a critical time. The National Research Council of Canada also opened a new advanced materials research facility in Mississauga in 2020. Serving as a national clean energy hub that's part of the Canadian Campus for Advanced Materials Manufacturing, a joint initiative between the NRC and the Xerox Research Centre of Canada. And we will need even more of these partnerships to stay ahead of the curve, to expand our innovation ecosystem so more and more ambitious young entrepreneurs choose Mississauga as the place to launch their businesses and then scale up to become globally competitive. We need these partnerships to provide more real-world opportunities for our UTM and Sheridan students to strengthen our talent pipeline. But without a commitment to building sustainable and being complete communities, all of these efforts would be meaningless. We need vibrant and dynamic communities that attract businesses and talent to the city and keep people here. Communities that have the right mix of housing, transit, culture, and recreational amenities for everyone in Mississauga to enjoy. A huge bright spot for the city was that we approved more than $2.5 billion in building permit construction in 2020, and that is the highest ever in our city's history. Our planning and building departments deserve great amounts of credit for not missing a beat and being able to get this done during a global pandemic. And it truly underscores that developers understand the direction that Mississauga is heading. We're a thriving metropolis that is in demand. And in our downtown, Oxford Properties released its plan for the 130-acre parcel of land surrounding Square One, which will be known as the Square One District and features 37 high-rise towers with more than 18,000 residential units, half of which would be rental apartments. There'll also be office and retail space, parks and community facilities, such as a transit hub that will be served by the Hurontario LRT. M-City, an 8-tower development by Rogers Real Estate at the western gateway to downtown Mississauga, will be a complement to the Marilyn Monroe Towers at the eastern gateway. M-City will be a mixed-use community that will transform the area into a dense urban space that is vibrant, walkable, and livable. The first 2 towers will be 61 stories, while the tallest tower will reach 81 stories, becoming one of the tallest in the GTA. To the south, the work we are doing on our waterfront with the Brightwater and the Lakeview developments is like nothing else in Canada. In fact, globally. It's truly a rare opportunity to have 250 acres of prime waterfront real estate to develop. We are giving the waterfront back to the community. These developments will be sustainable, mixed-use communities that will include world-class cultural amenities, public art, parks, and open spaces that will bring people to the water and the water to the people. The projects will spur economic activity and job-creating opportunities with ambitions to incorporate technology that will equip these communities to flourish in the 21st century. Brightwater has proceeded more quickly, with their 3,000 units have been approved. This site will boast more than 300,000 square feet of commercial space with a retail and community common corridor running the length of the development from Lakeshore Road to the lake. At the base of the site is a campus, and we continue to work with the Brightwater partners to realize the full potential of these buildings. Lakeview will boast 8,000 units and feature 180,000 square feet of commercial space. We're also working on many of the strategic priorities that will set this site apart from many of the others that we have done in our city. These include an innovation corridor that will be home to innovative companies occupying 1.8 million square feet of employment space and over 9,000 high-paying, highly skilled jobs. A cultural district that will include space for artists to showcase their work while animating the community. Creating a tourism destination with views like no other, boasting the longest pier on this side of Lake Ontario as a central focus. And the Jim Tovey Conservation Area, a 64-acre reclaimed wetland using the fill from the former Lakeview generating station. Mississauga's waterfront will soon continue our landscape, will soon contribute to our landscape in the same way that Chicago's, Stockholm's, and San Francisco's have to their cities, while creating new spaces for innovative partnerships and opportunities for small businesses. Complete communities also mean advancing priorities like improvements to our community centers and creating even more spaces where art and culture can be celebrated. Our new Churchill Meadows Community Center and Sports Park seeks to do just that, slated to open later in 2021, while Burnham Thorpe and Carmen Corbison Community Centers will be redeveloped over the next few years as well. We're also moving forward with our cultural districts plan in 6 communities: Port Credit, Streetsville, the downtown core, Cooksville, Clarkson, and of course, Malton. It's a plan that will nurture placemaking collaborations between businesses, entrepreneurs, artists, community groups, and residents. Build partnerships and liven up our main streets, attracting people from across Mississauga and the GTA. We're redeveloping our central library, officially renaming it the Hazel McCallion Central Library in honor of Hazel's legacy and her 100th birthday on February 14th, 2021. And if COVID-19 has taught us anything, it's the importance of ensuring our hospitals have the capacity to meet the needs of the community. Trillium Healthcare Partners has done so much over the last year caring for COVID patients, administering tests, vaccinating healthcare workers, all while providing regular inpatient and emergency care. And over the next 20 years, no hospital in Ontario will require more services than Trillium Health Partners. And that's why it's so important that we continue to make progress on the redevelopment and the expansion of the Mississauga Hospital site, as we've already done with Credit Valley. While some of our bigger developments help us meet our growth targets and address the need for market rental housing and office space, we will need to be creative, flexible, and steadfast in our commitment to help solve the housing affordability crisis sweeping the GTHA. Affordability, and specifically housing prices and the cost of living, are key to attracting new businesses and building a healthy and prosperous city. Before the pandemic, precarious employment was rising and wages weren't keeping pace with the cost of living. And COVID only accelerated this. If we are to truly prosper as a city, it is important that we don't leave anyone behind. We need to ensure that Mississauga stays within reach and that people, your employees, can afford to both live and work here. And we have a plan. Through the city's housing strategy, Making Room for the Middle, we are finding ways to create more affordable housing. We're doing this through policies that require replacement or retention of affordable rental units if they're lost to condos or other redevelopment, as well as inclusionary zoning that requires a specific proportion of new construction near major transit routes to be affordable to people with low to moderate incomes. Several developers have already committed to incorporating affordable units in their developments, including the Daniels Corporation, through a partnership with other levels of government. I'm happy that many of our development partners have accepted the need to provide affordable units in their new developments. We're also expanding housing options permitted in neighborhoods. One way is by providing financial supports to homeowners to make renovations for a second unit in their homes. And we're investigating unique housing forms and ownership models such as multiplexes, co-ownership housing, and cooperative housing. But we still need help from our federal and our provincial housing partners. We need changes to legislation and more funding to bring more affordable housing to the market. Safe, affordable housing is the key to unlocking the potential of our city, our people, and our businesses. Housing is the launching pad for life. COVID-19 has accelerated changes to how we work. The good news is that we are the most connected city in the country with the largest publicly owned fiber optic network in Canada. That's 800 kilometers of fiber optic cable in place, which has allowed us to create the largest free public Wi-Fi network in Canada, with free Wi-Fi provided at all City of Mississauga facilities and an additional 350 outdoor hotspots across the city. This will be critical in keeping your employees connected to the office. By being the most connected city also means a whole lot of other exciting things. 780 of our intersections are connected to the network through our advanced traffic management systems, along with 500 of our MyWay buses, our community centers, arenas, libraries, and cultural facilities. As we push forward with these exciting projects, we need to reaffirm our commitment to ensuring in this city that our city has the opportunity to grow and to thrive. 2020 exposed the historic racial inequities and inequalities in our policing, our justice system, our healthcare system, as well as many of our other institutions. I'm more committed than ever to ensuring Mississauga is not only the most diverse place in the country, but also the most inclusive. That's just not the right thing to do. It also makes good economic sense. At the City of Mississauga, we passed Motion 207 to address the anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism, which has been identified as a historic, pervasive, institutional, and systemic issue in Mississauga. As part of the recommendations, I've established a Black caucus composed of Black community members to advise me on key issues facing the Black community. In the spring, I will host a series of consultations open to everyone where we will work together to address some of the biggest issues facing the Black community, including city resources, healthcare, education, access to employment, housing, and supports for Black entrepreneurs. I'm also working with our city manager, Paul Mitchum, on how we apply this important work to city programs and to our hiring practices. Mississauga, this is the state of our city. And despite the great challenges of the past year, there is a lot to be hopeful for. Hopeful because we're doing so many things right. We are stabilizing the ship and continuing to move forward on so many important fronts. We are continuing to focus on the future by creating the right conditions that will allow us to build back better. Mississauga, our strength is our diversity, both in our people and in our business community. We are a city home to so many beautiful cultures and languages, a city that presents so many opportunities. Our strength is in the compassion we have for one another and in our willingness to lift each other up, to think boldly and act decisively. We are a city that will continue to welcome new Canadians with open arms when our borders reopen. We're a digitally connected, smart city that is prepared for the future, a city where innovation and business thrive, and most importantly, a place where people choose to be, where they want to live, to work, and raise a family. Mississauga, the next year, the next decade is for the taking. Let's build back better. Let's push forward together as partners. Thank you.
For such a trying year, and I know that it's been exceptionally tough for you and your colleagues on council. I was so happy that you mentioned some of the Mississauga-based companies that had come, to the forefront and helped out. I know we can't mention them all, but I remember we stood in front of City Hall when UniFirst donated 100,000 masks, and IPEX came up with some face masks. Microbics developing the controls for testing, and BD Canada that has the Veritor testing equipment, and of course our Merge project, which is the Mississauga Economic Recovery Group. You've joined me with our Toronto Region Board of Trade colleagues in the safe and responsible opening for companies in the airport zone. So really happy to have you on that. And of course, congratulations to you and your colleagues for keeping the tax increase 1.38%, but we're not done there yet, I believe, because when we get the reduction in education taxes, it's going to be much lower. So congratulations to you and your colleagues for that. I know that we've got time for a few questions. I know Brad is helping us out with looking at the questions. So if you do have a question, hit the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and put your question in there. Brad Butt is in the background vetting those questions. And also I do want to make mention of our of you joining us for our restaurant town hall, where we talked about how we can work together to open up restaurants, and where we recommended to the province that they open up in a 40% capacity of their liquor license. That gave everybody lots of room to physically distance. And then you also joined us for our town hall when it came to personal services as well. So we really appreciate you joining us on that. And I know that you haven't seen this yet, but I'm looking forward to getting support from our friends at Peel Health when we introduce our FAST program, which is the Fast Antigen Testing Toolkit, or sorry, Screening Toolkit, which will be for all businesses. So, I mean, many people are interested in the vaccine, and I know that you're well into the conversations there, Mayor. Can you give us any updates on vaccines? I know you talked about the centers, the mass vaccination centers, but what about the flow of vaccines? Can you give us an update on that? And you're muted, Mayor.
There we go. So update on the vaccines. Yes. So very exciting news. We opened the UTM site, which will work in collaboration with our Trillium Health partners. They'll be able to vaccinate 200 people an hour, I should say, over 20,000 per day. When we get up and rolling, we are just waiting for a supply delivery of the vaccine. You can register now, and I encourage everyone over 80 to go online and to register as soon as possible. You can access them from the Trillium Health Partners site. In addition, you know that 7120 here, Ontario, just north of Derry, is a vaccination site, as is the Paramount Vine Food Center's Field House. That will be operative early next week. And the International Center will be another site for vaccination in Mississauga. We will have a total of 4, but in addition, there will be mobile testing as well, probably for some of our harder to reach seniors, and drive-throughs are planned as well. So we will have you covered. I encourage everyone to go on the online registration once it is opened on March 15th. That is a provincial online registration that will be opened up. But in the short term, we're registering people over 80 at Trillium Healthcare Partners. And I know that many of the family health care practices are reaching out to their patients to encourage them to register. I know you're worried, so I will share with you. I did register my mom, Veronica, who has accessibility and mobility issues. I want to be sure she's in the queue for her vaccine, as she's 85. So at UTM, we'll be administering the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine, not the AstraZeneca, because that clinic, of course, is for the age cohorts, 80 plus and then 70 plus, et cetera. And right now, AstraZeneca is not recommended for people over 65, excuse me. So we are waiting for a large delivery of vaccine that we are anticipating this week and more next week. And so those are our plans. We're ready to go. You've seen the photographs online. The clinics are set up, and we have people ready to put needles in arms. We're just waiting for the vaccine.
I do want to recognize that MPP Natalia Kuzendova has joined us today, and I do want to thank Natalia for helping us with our fast antigen screening toolbox program. She's been very helpful in helping us. Of course, Natalia is a registered nurse by profession, and now she's a professional politician, but she was able to help me navigate some of the Ministry of Health issues, and of course MPP Nina Tangri, who's the parliamentary assistant to Minister Vic Fedeli, which is really interesting that Vic Fedeli's ministry is responsible for deployment of the rapid antigen tests that they have at the province. Mayor, the LRT, it's an exciting project. You know, we keep there's been lots of talk about it. Many people have asked me, has COVID slowed that project down? You know, will we still get the LRT on time as scheduled? Has anything stopped production or construction of the LRT that you're aware of?
No, absolutely not. It is on schedule for to be opened in 2024, late 2024. We haven't cut the ribbon yet, and that's only because we're limited to the number of people that we can bring forward to a site to cut that red ribbon. But certainly there is work ongoing, whether it's moving utilities under the ground, working to, some of the land has had to been expropriated to expand the corridor, to expand those lanes. Work is being done, absolutely. But we just haven't had the groundbreaking yet or dug the hole for the first rail. But certainly you will see that in the south of the city, I've noticed that there is utility movement underground, and that is certainly the case right across the 19 kilometers of the corridor.
Mayor, you mentioned your mother, Veronica, you've got her set up for her vaccination. One of the questions from the audience is, what about people who may not have access to a computer, or they're of an age where they're just not familiar on how to register? How are we taking care of those people to get them in the queue to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. So there will be the option to phone in and call in as you would your doctor's office to make that appointment. In fact, you can call Trillium Health Partners and register there, or even call your doctor's office and have them connect you with the online registry. They will be taking phone calls or online registrations. We absolutely recognize that not everyone has access to a computer.
Mayor, innovation and entrepreneurship has been very, very near and dear to your heart. It's something that we've both worked on together on a number of different projects, and we understand that that economic development has some news about an innovation center that might be opening up very soon in the city center. Can you share information about that?
Well, I don't know how much details I should give yet. I don't know if things are final, but certainly in the downtown precinct, maybe even in the mall, there will be an innovation center. And so I'm very looking forward to that. Of course, we already have an accelerator at Sheridan College and at UTM, but we need more and more of those kinds of sites right across our city. And as you know, as part of the Lakeview project, there will be an innovation corridor that will feature all kinds of businesses, startups, centers of excellence. I'm so excited. We are planning what will go into that innovation corridor as we speak.
Mayor, there's so much development that's happening down on Lakeshore in that area of Councillor Dasco. I mean, he must be just going 24/7 with all of the great news that's happening down in his area. One of the things that I am really looking forward to, and the late Councillor Tovey introduced this to me, is that underground waste removal system that is planned, that he brought back from one of his trips to the Scandinavian countries. It's going to eliminate garbage trucks from being in the area. I'm really looking forward to that part. Another question from our audience, Mayor, is the region planning on taking vaccines into retirement homes and lifestyle communities for seniors that are 80 and over, so that they don't need to line up in these mass vaccination sites?
Okay, so let me address both those issues. And you know that we, some of us had the opportunity with the staff from the region of Peel to go to Sweden and check out those cutting edge new technologies, sustainable technologies that are so common in places like Scandinavia that are very new to North America. Certainly district energy, vacuum waste, those are the kinds of new technologies we're looking at employing at the Lakeview site, of course. And you're quite right. Councillor Dasco is facing unprecedented development down in Ward 1. He has run off his feet night and day, and I know I live down in that area as well, and I see those signs going up everywhere, development proposals. But Councillor Dasco and I are committed to keeping the village feel in Port Credit, and I know that's very important to us. We know where density should be, and that's where it will be allocated. A note to some of the developers that may be online with us. With respect to congregate settings, absolutely, we will bring those to congregate settings. We've taken the vaccine to long-term care facilities. We have already taken them to the high-risk retirement homes, and there will be more of that as well. We will take them into all the seniors' homes. But at the same time, if they're mobile, if those seniors are mobile and want to get on the provincial list or at the list for Trillium Health Partners at UTM, then please call in and make your reservation. No, you don't have to delay.
Mayor, you were very vocal about bringing Mississauga back after the emergency shutdown into a red zone, and going as far as to say that if we needed to, let's bring Mississauga back, and not to throw our friends in Brampton under the bus, but you and I are responsible for our businesses in Mississauga. That is now just under a week away for reopening. What do you have any late information about what we might expect come March the 8th?
Well, interesting you should ask. We have been in lockdown with City of Toronto longer than anywhere else in the province, over 15 weeks now. It's unprecedented, and I know our businesses are suffering. I think we're all suffering in one way or another. I carefully watch the indices. Every day I watch the case counts, but more important, I look to see of those case counts, what are those VOCs, variants of concern, because of course, Dr. Lawrence Lowe was very worried about the spread of the VOCs because they're far more transmissible than the original virus. So we watch the case counts, but we also watch the conditions for public health, whether it's testing and tracing capacity, our supply of vaccine, which is soon to come in, but importantly, our hospital capacity, because that is our last line of defense. And I will say that our hospitals are holding their own. We still have up to 50 inpatients hospitalized for COVID. We have 10 to 15, changes day to day, in the ICU. Elective surgeries have been cut, but are coming back, and we are transferring fewer and fewer patients. So our hospitals are holding their own. And I am quite confident that given our case numbers, we are at 73 cases per 100,000 as of today, but the new numbers come in tonight, and I think they're going to be lower. Fingers crossed they're going to be lower. So I am very hopeful, and I have asked that we be considered for the red zone. I will share that Dr. Lowe is very cautious. He doesn't want to move us sooner than we need to be moved, because we agree that worse than not reopening is opening and then having to close again in 3 to 4 weeks. I think there's a lot of effort for companies to recall their employees, get their inventory up and running, and then only to have to close again in 3 to 4 weeks. So we want to be sure we open when it's right and when it's safe. But I will share that Mississauga's condition at 73 cases per 100,000 capacity in the hospitals, et cetera, is the same or better than York was when they went into the red zone, and they skipped gray entirely and went right into red, as Halton Hills, as did Hamilton. So I'm very hopeful. Of course, I've always been told that we're one public health unit with Brampton and Caledon, and we should move as a public health unit because the virus moves. But we also see that people move, and people are moving, and we've seen the evidence from anonymous aggregate cell phone data that people are moving. People in Mississauga are going to Oakville and into Burlington, and people in Brampton are going into Vaughan, and people in Toronto are going into Markham. People are moving, and it hasn't disrupted their case counts either. So if those areas can open safely into red zone, then presumably Mississauga can. And if our partners in Peel need to be held back another week or so, so be it. But I think we're ready to go. Of course, Dr. Lowe has the last word, and he makes the recommendation to Dr. Williams, who in turn gives advice to the Premier. I advocate, they implement, and we enforce. It's a terrible place to be, that we're a little bit powerless except on the enforcement front. But I'm very hopeful. I remain very hopeful. And I just peeked at my phone, and I realized I got a call from John Tory, wants to talk about the plans for reopening and where we'll be in the framework. So hopefully he knows something I don't, and we'll have that conversation. But let's hope. I wore my red jacket for inspiration for red zone. But worst case scenario, it's gray, and then at a minimum in the gray zone, our businesses can open with limited capacity, 25% capacity. It's just our restaurants and gyms that can't open, and of course our salons and personal care services, which is why I was pushing for red zone. I know many of those businesses, particularly the personal care services, are often run by women who are also feeding their families and have been hurt. And our restaurants, all our favorite restaurants, have been shut down for at least 15 weeks now. So I feel like it's time. We're close to spring. More people will be outdoors. The vaccine is coming. The numbers look good. The hospital capacity is strong. So let's go red.
Let's go red. Mayor, I know that we're certainly aligned on getting that done, and I know that Dr. Lowe is doing what he believes is best, and we're all doing what we believe is best for for the people that we represent. So hopefully Dr. Lowe will be aligned with us on this particular situation. And as you mentioned, it's very distressing for for our restaurant businesses that are along Dundas, right up against the Oakville border, where
Right?
they
They watch
they
watch
see-
all their customers going into across the street to the south side of the street in Oakville. I know, it's just heartbreaking.
So frustrating, so frustrating. But we keep our fingers crossed that we will be able to open, and hopefully the province will see their way to opening based on square footage as we've proposed, as opposed to just doing a one size fits all. Mayor, the last question that we have for you today is, you advocated for paid sick days to be paid for by the province, by the federal government. We supported you on that call. Of course, businesses are not in a position to pay for that because they have been hardest hit. The news that I have is that that recommendation, that plea for help, has not been received well at the moment. Do you have any news that you can share with us that perhaps the feds or the province will reconsider on those paid sick days, at least during COVID?
You know, David, I want to thank MBOT for your advocacy on this file. Dr. Lowe and all the medical officers of health have also put forward the plea for allocated sick days. We asked for 14 sick days or during the pandemic specifically. And I know the federal government has topped up the sick leave to 14 days, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. It's still cumbersome. You still have to apply. You don't receive any benefit if you're off waiting for a test result. And it's certainly less than minimum wage, which doesn't allow the person to, well, it puts people in the position of having to choose between a paycheck and food on the table. And we certainly don't want that to happen. We want people to safely stay home and recover, knowing that their wages are coming in seamlessly. So we've always advocated that the best way to do it is 17 allocated sick days, and that large companies be backstopped by the federal government so that our employees can safely stay home knowing that their wages will be, they will receive wages. There will be no fear of reprisals, no fear of losing their jobs, who will continue to get their income, and their companies will be repaid, backstopped by the federal government. We think that's the best program. We also know that the provincial government has $600 million on the table for COVID relief, and we think that they could apply some of that in the short term. What's really important, and we know from the data that Dr. Lowe has corrected, that 1 in 4 people, 2,000 of the 8,000 people with COVID symptoms went to work. 1 in 4 went to work with COVID symptoms. And worse than that, 80 of those people after a positive test. And why were they choosing to do that? Because they needed the paycheck. Let's be sure people receive their paycheck and that they're able to stay home and safely isolate, knowing that they will be paid.
Well, Mayor, certainly out of our Merge initiative, our FAST program, the fast antigen screening toolkit for businesses, hopefully we'll be able to catch people in asymptomatic stages and be able to get them to the proper care that they need before they can affect anyone else.
And we do encourage those large businesses, all businesses, in fact, who have access to rapid tests, to use those for their employees. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we know that just because we have the vaccine coming, I've talked to Dr. Lois, I know you have, and we are still going to need to keep up these efforts about washing your hands, physical distancing, keeping the mask on. Testing is going to be here for quite some time until we understand what the effectiveness is of the vaccines in real life. So
if I can share with you some Israeli data, because we know that in the country of Israel, just about 100% of the population who wanted to have now been vaccinated, and they have reduced their numbers, their COVID cases by over 96%, and they've reduced hospitalizations and deaths related to COVID by over 98%. So there you go. There's evidence enough that it does the job. However, what we don't know about the vaccine vaccine is that it will protect you, but can you still carry it, pass it on to someone else? That is why it's so important to continue to maintain proper protocols, washing your hands, wearing your face mask, etc., until we know otherwise, and we know better otherwise. And you know, the COVID vaccine may be similar to the flu vaccine. You may have to get it topped up each and every year, get the new vaccine that's come out that'll address the new variants, etc. And you know, it's going to be worth it, absolutely. So we encourage everyone to register for the vaccine when the time comes and the shipments arrive. And I'm pretty excited. I'm very inspired and very hopeful. And I want everyone to read the science and go out and be sure that they are vaccinated, so we can continue to go back to life as we once knew it.
Well, I will be right in line as soon as it's available for me as well. Mayor, I want to thank you for being with us, but to formally thank you, I'd like to call on our gold sponsor from Bell Canada, the Senior Vice President of Business Marketing and Sales, Gary Semplonius. Gary?
We don't have to tell you how important technology is to your business, or that you need to be more agile than ever to compete in today's fast-changing landscape. You know that. But we will tell you why Canadian businesses choose Bell. We connect evolving workforces, support changing business needs, enable new ways to collaborate and communicate, help you meet changing customer expectations, and help protect you against emerging threats. For over a century, we've empowered businesses coast to coast, investing in our network to move Canadian business forward, providing best-in-class solutions and expertise, leading through transformation after transformation, advancing how Canadians connect with each other and the world. Together, we push the boundaries of what is possible, raising the bar for what a true partnership can be. That's why businesses choose Bell. We empower you to do more and make more.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Crombie, on behalf of Bell and everyone here today, I want to thank you for sharing your perspective on the issues, challenges, and opportunities encountered by the City of Mississauga in 2020, a year I think we are all glad to put behind us. We enter 2021 with a renewed focus on the importance of technology in our lives. Never before have networks, whether fiber or wireless, been more vital in staying connected with our loved ones, friends, schools, and workplaces than during this public health crisis. At Bell, we saw usage of our network skyrocket, but we were well positioned to meet the demands of our customers, whether local or federal government, emergency services, businesses large and small, or families at home. As we head into a year full of hope, promise, and progress, the City of Mississauga and Bell are in good position to leverage our expertise in innovation, technology, and partnership to make sure we all collectively grow and continue to serve our stakeholders. I am excited to continue down this path of renewed technological advancement together as we look forward to providing services like innovative smart city solutions to help advance city operations and sustainability, and of course, to meet the city's exponential growth and continue to provide reliable networks every day, especially in these critical times. After listening to your remarks, Mayor Crombie, I think we can all agree that the City of Mississauga has a lot to look forward to in 2021, and we are certainly excited to be a part of that. Thanks to leaders like you, Mayor Crombie, to your colleagues on council, the Board of Trade, and the community leaders gathered online today, it's clear that Mississauga is in great hands. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gary, and thanks to Bell for being a sponsor today, and thanks to our other sponsors, our title sponsor, MNP, and silver sponsors, Greater Toronto Airport Authority, Lakeview Community Partners, Kaiser Mason Ball, CN Rail, AstraZeneca, Nurse Next Door, and Imperial Oil. And thanks to our MPs and MPPs and our councillors for joining us today. And Mayor, a very, very special thanks to you for joining us today. Always a great pleasure to to listen to you speak about our great city, Mississauga. And thanks to everyone out there for joining us today. As we look forward to opening in Red Zone next week, fingers crossed, keep the thoughts positive. And in closing, thank you, Mayor, and we wish you continued success in your business.